Jesus is God. Jesus is Savior. Jesus is your only teacher. I am not your teacher. Your pastor is not your teacher. Your rabbi is not your teacher. Jesus is your only teacher. Go on your knees today and ask that Jesus open your eyes. Ask that Jesus open your ear so that you may listen to him. Ask him to give you an understanding of his word, his commandment, in the book of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Jesus can set you free from sin. All you have to do is to love him and have faith in him. Jesus promised you this. He promised you that if you keep his word, his commandment, that he will reveal himself to you. And when he does reveal himself to you, he will set you free from sin once for all. And you will never walk in the darkness if you follow him. You have to follow him to not walk in the darkness. If Jesus comes to live in you, you will be free from sin. It is miraculous. You do not have to try hard. All you have to do is have faith. You have to believe. You have to have love for him, and you also have to have faith in him. And he will set you free from sin. If he tell you to apply his words, you need to do it. If he tell you to forgive others, you need to do it. If he tell you to bless those who curse you, you have to do it. If he tell you to love your neighbor as yourself, you have to do it. There are many more commandments. Jesus will show you his commandment. Submit to Jesus and resist the devil. Jesus will make you into a son of God and a daughter of God. You don't have to listen to Satan or his lies. You do not have to backslid into sin. Jesus take care of you. You do not have to backslid into sin. Go to Jesus today. Go on your knees and ask in prayer that he teach you his words, his commandment, and he will reveal himself to you. So let's read a word from our God and Savior. As Jesus spoke these things, many believed in him. So he said to the Jews who had believed him, "If you continue in my word, you are truly my disciples. Then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free." Those Jews believed in Jesus, just like you. You believe in Jesus? Good, good. But you have to continue in his words. You have to be his disciple. If you don't want to be his disciple, that's your choice. But how can you be free from sin if you are not his disciple? This is what Jesus is saying. So he said to the Jews who had believed him, "If you continue in my word, you are truly my disciples. Then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free." Do you know why so many Christians are living in sin? It is because they do not want to continue in his word. if you continued in his words in the book of Matthew, Mark, John, and Luke, you would be his disciple. Then you would be free from sin. Jesus would reveal himself to you. Jesus would come and live in you. Then you will be free from sin. Jesus is the truth. You have to apply his word. You have to continue his word. You have to be his disciple. Then he will set you free from sin. Then he will appoint you to go and bear fruit that will remain. Nobody can teach you how to bear fruit that will remain beside Jesus himself. Do not look up on the internet. Do not look up some sermons. Do not go to church and be a missionary for someone, pastor. Who told you to do those things? Who told you to do those things? Jesus has to tell you. Jesus has to give you a mission. Jesus has to appoint you to bear fruit that will remain. Do not listen to people. Jesus will tell you. Jesus can speak to you. Jesus can show you what to do. You got to have faith. You have to believe in him. You have to believe that he can listen, that he can hear you. You have to believe that he is alive forever and ever. You have to believe that he can see you. You have to believe. You have to believe. Without faith, you cannot please Jesus. The righteous will live by faith. You got to believe in Jesus. You have to go to him for every single things. Do not go to people. Go to Jesus for every single thing. Jesus is a wonderful counselor. He is a wonderful counselor. You know, he doesn't want to keep his counsel for himself. He wants to give you his counsel. So yes, you have to be his disciple. To be free from sin, you have to be his disciple to be free from sin. That's why so many people are living in sin. They are deep in sin. They are watching adult movies. They are sleeping outside of marriage. They get drunk. They get high. They have hatred. They have jealousy. They have unforgiveness. Because Jesus does not live in them. Because they are not his disciple. Being a disciple is good. There is so many blessings in being the disciple of Jesus. Of Jesus himself. Not a disciple of people, of your church, or of your pastor. A disciple of Jesus. Jesus tells us to love one another and serve one another. That's it. That's it. And this is another verse. This is another word from our God and Savior. A new commandment I give you. Love one another. As I have loved you, so you also must love one another. By this, all men will know that you are my disciple, if you love one another. Why do you keep listening to people? Jesus tells us that by this all men will know that you are my disciples, if you love one another. If you are not striving to be his disciple, what are you doing more than others, than the Pharisees, those modern Pharisees, than other people who worship idols? What are you doing more than others? All men need to know that you are his disciple. They need to know it. You have to love. We have to love one another. As I have loved you, so also you must love one another. By this all men will know that you are my disciple, if you love one another. You have to, Jesus has to be proud of you. Don't you want Jesus to be proud of you? Don't you want to be called? Don't you want to hear, "Well done, my faithful servant"? Don't you want to hear, "Well done, my faithful disciple"? You have to love Jesus. You have to strive to be his disciple. Ask him to anoint you to be his disciple. Ask him to appoint you to go and bear fruit that will remain. You have to believe in your heart. You have to have faith in you. Do not have this head knowledge. Understand with your heart. You have to understand with your heart. Ask Jesus, "I want to understand with my heart." And this is again from a word from our God and Savior. "If you remain in me, and my words remain in you, ask whatever you wish, and it will be done for you. This is to my Father glory, that you bear much fruit, proving yourself to be my disciples." People want to lie to you. People want to lie. They want to lie to you. They don't want you to see you bearing much fruit. They don't want to see you prove yourself as a disciple of Jesus, our God, our Master. There is so many blessings in being a disciple of Jesus. If you remain in me, and my words remain in you, ask whatever you wish, and it will be done for you. This is to my Father glory, that you bear much fruit, proving yourself to be my disciples. Jesus can anoint you. Jesus can anoint you to preach his gospel in the book of Matthew, Mark, John, and Luke. Jesus can anoint you to pray for people. Jesus can anoint you to cast out demons. Jesus can anoint you so much, can give you so much blessings if you want to be his disciple. His word, you have to remain in him, and his words has to remain in you. Be like a wise man. Let me read to you a word from our God and Savior. This is from our God and Savior. "Therefore, everyone who hears this word of mine and act on them is like a wise man who built his house on the rock. The rain fell, the torrent raged, and the winds blew and beat against that house. Yet it did not fall, because its foundation was on the rock." So many prophets wanted to hear what Jesus said. So many prophets wanted to hear the teaching of Jesus. Why don't you read about them? Why don't you prove yourself to be his disciple? Why don't you act on them? these things are going to happen. The rain is going to fall. The torrent are going to rage, and the winds are going to blow to the winds blow and beat against that house. You know, we are going to face attacks, but if you have faith in Jesus, if you believe in Him truly, and if you keep His word, you are not going to fall. You are not going to backslid into sin. If you remain in Jesus and His word remain in you, Jesus will appoint you to bear fruit that will remain. This is what happened to people who do not want to be His disciple. But everyone who hears this word of mine and does not act on them is like a foolish man who built his house on sand. The rain fell, the torrent raged, and the winds blew and beat against that house, and it fell, and great was its collapse. This is what happened to people who do not want to continue in His word, to people who do not want to be His disciple. People are going to collapse if they do not want to continue in His word and be His disciple. It is never too late to be His disciple. Jesus is so patient and compassionate. He will teach you everything that you need to know. He will train you. He will equip you. Believe in our God, our Savior Jesus. He is alive forever and ever. He can heal you. All you have to do is open your heart to Him and talk to Him. And you have to continue in His word. Then you will be His disciple. May Jesus give you understanding and peace. Amen.